You stupid dog. My husband yelled. I told you to only wear what my mother likes. He ripped my new expensive clothes. I punched him once, and he ended up in the hospital. Hello, dear listeners. Today, I have a story full of tension and surprises. It's about a family fight where love and betrayal clash. This is a story about a woman who thought marriage would bring her happiness. But instead, she found herself in a mess where every word and every look hid a secret plan. Will she be able to protect herself and show everyone who is trying to control her? Sit back and enjoy this exciting story. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like the video so you don't miss new stories. I threw my car keys on the nightstand and right away felt that something was wrong. The apartment was too quiet and I could hear low voices coming from the kitchen. I took off my shoes and walked quietly to the kitchen door to listen. You have to talk to her, hissed my mother-in-law, Lyudmila Artemovna. Her clothes shame our family. Yesterday, she went to work in a skirt above her knees and a tight blouse. What will people think? Mom, but she's an adult, my husband Igor answered nervously. She knows what to wear. Adult? My mother-in-law snorted. She acts like a silly girl. Are you a man or not? Can't you control your wife? I laughed quietly and decided not to hide anymore. I slammed the door and shouted, Hi, I'm home. The voices in the kitchen went silent. Igor peeked out of the kitchen with a guilty smile. Hello, dear. How was work? He asked. Great, I said, taking off my coat. I signed a contract for $2 million. The bonus will be good. My mother-in-law appeared next to him, her lips tight. This money of yours again, she complained. A woman should take care of the house, not run around offices. Lyudmila Artemovna, I said with a smile. How will we live, then? Should we go beg on the street on my husband's salary? She got angry. Igor blushed and quickly said, Let's have some tea. Mom made borscht. At the table, the conversation went back to my clothes. My mother-in-law kept saying that a married woman should dress modestly and not show off her figure. I looked at her and thought about how she had been wearing the same brown dress for 3 days. But Rayechka from next door, she went on. She's a proper wife. She always wears long skirts and a headscarf. Rayechka works as a cleaner at school, I said. She has to wear a headscarf. But she's decent, my mother-in-law said, giving me a cold look. And you probably drive all the men in your office crazy with your clothes. Mom, please. Igor tried to stop her. What do you mean, please? She shouted. Look at her. Bright lipstick, high heels, tight skirt. I'm ashamed of my daughter-in-law. I finished my tea and stood up. Thanks for the borscht. I need to get ready for tomorrow's presentation. Work again, my mother-in-law cried. When will you have children? Whenever I want. I snapped and went to the bedroom. Half an hour later, Igor knocked on the door. Can I come in? Come in, I said. He sat on the edge of the bed where I had laid out my papers. Don't mind Mom, he said. She means well. Igor, I'm 30 years old. I decide what I wear. Understand? She's just worried about what people think of us, he said. She says my coworkers look at you strangely. I looked up from the documents. What coworkers? Igor hesitated. Well, people at work. What exactly do they say? I asked. Nothing special, he said quickly. They just hint that a wife should dress more modestly. Then I remembered Igor hadn't talked about his job for a month. He used to tell me everything about his work at the bank, but lately he only said general things. Igor, how is the credit project you were leading? I asked. It's fine, he said quickly. Everything is going as planned. And the promotion? You said they would decide by autumn. It's still quiet. There's a crisis, you know, he mumbled. I didn't like the way he said it, but I decided not to push him. I know how work can be. Sometimes it's better not to talk about it. The next day, I had an important meeting with potential investors. I chose a formal suit jacket, a knee-length pencil skirt, a white blouse, and mid-heeled shoes. No one could find this outfit inappropriate, not even the most old-fashioned client. But when I left the bedroom, my mother-in-law, who had stayed the night, almost choked on her coffee. Where are you going dressed like that? She gasped. To work, I said calmly, fixing my jacket. This is impossible, she shouted, jumping up from her chair. Igor, look at your wife. Igor looked up from his newspaper and shrugged. She looks fine. Lyudmila Artemovna was furious. The skirt is too tight. The blouse is see-through. The blouse is not see-through, I said firmly. It's thick cotton. And those high heels. Are you going to a nightclub? I took a deep breath and checked my watch. I only had 40 minutes left before the meeting, and I had to drive across the city. Lyudmila Artemovna, this is a business suit. All women in my field wear clothes like this. What field? She snorted. You're a secretary. I froze. What? A secretary, she repeated. Igor told me. You bring coffee to your boss and file papers. I turned to Igor. He blushed and kept staring at his newspaper. Igor? I asked. Well, he stammered. I didn't say it exactly like that. Then what did you say? I demanded. Mom just understood it that way, he muttered. My mother-in-law looked at us both, confused. So, you're not a secretary? No, I said firmly. I am the head of the strategic planning department at Alpha Capital, an investment company. 15 people report to me. The room went silent. My mother-in-law opened her mouth but didn't say anything. And I earn 250,000 rubles a month, I added. Plus bonuses when projects go well. Lyudmila Artemovna sank into her chair. That can't be, she whispered. I picked up my bag and walked to the door. Igor, we'll talk tonight. All day at work, I couldn't stop thinking about what happened that morning. Even though the presentation went well and the investors were interested in our project, my mind kept returning to our conversation at home. Why didn't Igor tell his mother what my real job is? Does he even know his own mother? That evening, I came home later than usual. My mother-in-law had already left. Igor was sitting in the kitchen looking upset. Well, shall we talk? I asked, sitting across from him. Mom was upset. He started slowly. Igor, this is not about your mom. I'm asking you why you didn't tell her the truth about my job. He kept turning a spoon in his hands and didn't look at me. She wouldn't understand. What wouldn't she understand? That my wife makes more money than me. How much do you earn? I asked. Igor froze. What does that matter? Just answer. How much? 80,000, he said quietly. I did the math in my head. 80,000 compared to my 250,000. The difference was big. Okay. So, why does that bother anyone? I asked. We're a family. We put our money together for our budget. Mom says it's wrong, he said. What's wrong? I asked. When the wife earns more than the husband. She says it makes the man look weak. I leaned back in my chair. So that's what this is really about. Igor, who pays for this apartment? Both of us, he said. Specifically. Who pays the mortgage? He looked away. You do. And who pays the utility bills? You do. And the groceries, clothes, and fixing your car? Igor stayed silent. So I pay for everything, but you think I make you look weak? I asked. You don't have to put it like that, he said. Then how should I put it? Should I pretend I earn less just to make your mom happy? Mom just wants what's best, he insisted. Best for who? I asked. The conversation went nowhere. Igor just kept saying that Mom was worried about us and that we should listen to her advice because she was experienced. I sat there thinking I married one person, but I felt like I was living with two. A few days later, something happened that opened my eyes. I met our neighbor, Aunt Zina, in the store. We talked about prices and the weather. Then she suddenly asked, Is your Igor still not working? I was confused. What do you mean? He works at the bank. Aunt Zina looked surprised. Really? I've seen him at home every day for 3 months. He goes to the store in the middle of the day or sits outside on the bench with his mother. I felt cold inside. Are you sure you saw him? Maybe he was on vacation or sick leave. I see him every day, she said. Just yesterday at 2 p.m., he was sitting on a bench with his mother, drinking tea. 3 months of vacation? That's impossible. I drove home in shock. 3 months. That means Igor hasn't worked for 3 months, And he didn't tell me anything. He's been lying every day. He leaves the house in the morning, pretending he's going to the office. And what about the money? I thought back over the last few months. I realized I had been paying for almost everything. Igor only sometimes bought bread or milk, and even then he acted like it was a big deal. He said he was saving money on lunches, so he could bring more money home. He wasn't home now. There was a note on the table. Went to Mom's. I'll be back late. I sat down and tried to think clearly. So, Igor lost his job 3 months ago and hid it from me. Every day he pretended to go to work, but really he was spending the whole day with his mother talking about my clothes and how I act. But the worst part wasn't that he lied. It was that my mother-in-law knew. She definitely knew. That's why she kept trying to control me. She knows her son depends on my money, and she wants to keep me in my place, so I don't get too confident. I took out my phone and called Igor. Hello, where are you? At Mom's. What's wrong? Come home. We need to talk now. He came home half an hour later. He looked guilty and wouldn't meet my eyes. Sit down, I said. What's going on? You're acting strange. Igor, are you working? He went pale. What kind of question is that? Of course I work. Don't lie. Aunt Zena sees you at home every day. There was a long silence. Igor looked at the floor and sighed. I was laid off 2 months ago. 3 months. I corrected him. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want to upset you. I thought I'd find a new job quickly. And? Did you find one? Not yet, but I'm trying. I'm sending resumes and going to interviews. Then why do you pretend to go to work every morning? So you wouldn't worry, he said quietly. Does your mom know? He paused again. She knows. And did she tell you to hide it from me? Mom said not to upset you, he said. I see, I nodded. What else did Mom say? What do you mean? Did she tell you how to act with me? That you need to put me in my place before I get too confident. Igor looked up. Where did you get that idea? It's obvious, isn't it? I said. You don't work. I pay for everything. And your mom keeps telling me to dress more modestly and be quieter. She's afraid I'll realize I'm the one supporting everyone. Mom's just worried, he said. Worried about what? That you might start asking where your money goes, I said sharply. Don't talk about Mom like that, Igor said. How should I talk? I stood up and started pacing the room. Igor, I pay for everything for you, me, and your mom. I pay for the apartment, food, car, everything. And all I get in return are complaints about my skirts. Mom wants the best for us, he said. Stop. I turned to him. I don't want to hear that anymore. I want an honest conversation. How much money have you given to this family in the last 3 months? Well, Igor hesitated. I had some savings. How much? I demanded. Give me a number. About 20,000, he said quietly. 20,000 in 3 months? I've spent over 700,000 on the family during that time, I said. And that doesn't even include your mom, who eats here, does her laundry here, and demands medicine. Igor stayed silent. So here's what we're going to do, I continued firmly. Tomorrow you'll go to the employment center and register. You'll get unemployment benefits and look for a real job instead of sitting on a bench with your mother. And she should stop trying to teach me how to live. Her own life wasn't exactly perfect. What do you mean? Igor asked. What are you trying to say about Mom? Don't you know your mother's story? I asked. Igor looked confused. What story? He said. I thought about it. What did I really know about my mother-in-law? Igor once told me his dad left when he was 10 years old, and his mom raised him alone while working in a store. But that was it, no other details. Nothing, I finally said. It just seems strange to me that someone who couldn't make her own family work tries to tell me how to live mine. The next day, when I was coming home from work, Aunt Clava, our building's longtime concierge, was waiting for me at the entrance. She's an older woman, but very cheerful. Lenotchka, she called out. Can we talk for a minute? Of course, Aunt Clava. You know your mother-in-law well, right? I was surprised. Not really. Why do you ask? I was just thinking, what's her last name again? Believa, I said. I knew it. Aunt Clava slapped her knee. That's definitely her. Who? I asked, curious. I remember her when she was young, Aunt Clava said. Lyudka Believa moved here in 1978. There were so many stories about her. What stories? I asked, leaning closer. Aunt Clava looked around to make sure no one was listening. She had 3 boyfriends at the same time, she whispered. She was married, but she still had affairs with other men. Everyone in the neighborhood knew. I couldn't believe my ears. Are you sure we're talking about the same woman? I asked. Ludmila Artemovna seems so strict and proper. Oh, sweetie, Aunt Clava chuckled. She's strict now, but back then she was wild. She cheated on her husband so many times. He finally left her because he couldn't take it anymore. And Igor? I asked. He was just a little boy, Aunt Clava said. She raised him alone after her husband left. But before that, every night there was a new man. Neighbors even complained about the noise to the building management. What happened after? I asked. After her husband and lovers left, she was alone with her son. That's when she started acting proper. Maybe it was because she got older, or maybe she wanted to look respectable. But I remember how she used to be, Aunt Clava said, shaking her head. I walked up to my apartment in shock. The same Ludmila Artemovna who lectures me every day about modesty and how a woman should behave was completely different in her younger years. Now I understood why she was so obsessed with morals. She was trying to make up for her past by controlling me. At home, Igor was sitting at the computer, pretending to look for a job. When he saw me, he smiled awkwardly. Hi. How was your day? He asked. Fine, I said. I went to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. Igor, tell me about your childhood. What do you mean? He asked. About your parents. How did your dad leave? Why did he go? Igor frowned. Why do you want to know? I'm just curious, I said. You never really talk about your family. There's not much to tell, he said quietly. My dad left when I was 10. He said he couldn't live with Mom anymore. But I don't know exactly what happened between them. He was still a little boy back then. After the divorce, did your dad still see you? At first he visited sometimes, Igor said. Then he came less and less. When I started college, he stopped coming completely. And your mom never got married again? No, Igor said. She always said all men are selfish and untrustworthy, and it's better to live alone than put up with them. So that's it, I thought. Ludmila Artemovna raised her son to believe all men are bad and women are always the victims. That's probably why Igor thinks it's fine to do nothing while I work hard and still act like he's in charge. What did your mom say about how women should act? I asked. About women? Igor thought for a moment. She said women should be modest, keep the house in order, obey their husbands, not show off, and not draw attention to themselves. And you think that's right? I asked. Well, yes. The man is the head of the family, and the woman should support him, Igor answered. Okay. But what if the man can't support his family? Igor's face turned red. That's just a temporary problem. A temporary problem? It's been 3 months. And you still didn't tell me the truth. What kind of head of the family are you? I didn't want to upset you, Igor said softly. No, Igor. You weren't trying to protect me. You were protecting yourself. You didn't want to admit you were unemployed and living off my money. That's not fair. Fair enough, I said firmly. And you know what? Tomorrow, I'll have a serious talk with your mother. I'll tell her exactly who is paying for everything in this family. Igor looked terrified. Why? There's no need to upset her. Why should I care about her feelings if she doesn't care about mine? Mom's old, Igor said. She's not that old, I said. And she knows more than she pretends. Just then, Igor's phone rang. It was his mother. He quickly answered. Hi, Mom. Yes, we're both at home, he said, glancing nervously at me. You want to come over for dinner? Okay. He hung up and looked at me. Mom's coming over with dinner. Perfect, I said. We'll have a lot to talk about. Ludmila Artemovna arrived an hour later with a big bag of groceries and a sour expression. As soon as she walked in, She started criticizing everything. Igor, look at all the dust on these shelves, she said. And your fridge is completely empty. It's good I brought some borscht. Thanks, Mom, Igor mumbled, avoiding my eyes. I just watched as she moved around my kitchen, unpacking food, washing dishes, and making loud sighs so everyone could see how much she was saving the household. Finally, I said, Lyudmila Artemovna, please sit down. We need to talk. About what? She asked, turning to me with a saucepan in her hands. About the family budget. She and Igor exchanged worried looks. Igor fidgeted. Lena, maybe not now, Igor started. Right now, I said firmly. Lyudmila Artemovna, do you know your son hasn't had a job for 3 months? There was a long pause. She slowly put the pan on the stove and turned to face me. I know, she admitted quietly. Then, do you know who's been paying for the apartment, the food, the bills? Igor is just going through a tough time, she said. I pay for everything. I cut in. The apartment, the car, the food, and your medicine too. I even send you 10,000 rubles every month for your living expenses. Lyudmila Artemovna stood up straighter. I didn't ask you to do that. No, you didn't ask, I said. But you still take the money. And at the same time, you tell me how I should dress and behave. I care about the family's reputation, she said defensively. What reputation? I stood up and stepped closer. Your son doesn't have a job, he lives off my money, and you're teaching me about modesty? My mother-in-law's face turned red. Everyone goes through tough times. Let's be honest, Lyudmila Artemovna, I said. You know very well who earns the money in this family. And instead of thanking me for supporting your son, you try to put me in my place. Igor, say something, his mother snapped. Igor stayed silent, staring at the floor. So let me get this straight. I continued. While your son looks for a job, I'm supposed to dress like a beggar and tiptoe around so I don't hurt your feelings. You need to act like a decent woman, Lyudmila Artemovna shouted. Oh, really? I asked. And did you always act like a decent woman? She froze. What do you mean? Aunt Klava from apartment 7 told me some very interesting stories about you when you were younger, I said. Lyudmila Artemovna's face went pale. That old gossip, she muttered. So it's true? I asked with a smile. You had 3 lovers at the same time, and your husband left you. Shut up, she yelled. Why? You have no problem judging my life. Why not tell Igor what a decent woman you were when he was a child? Igor looked up at his mother. Mom, what is she talking about? Nothing, she said quickly. Just stupid gossip. It's not gossip, I said. It's the truth. You cheated on Igor's father over and over, and that's why he left you. That's not true, she snapped. Then why are you so upset? I asked calmly, sitting down and crossing my arms. Listen, Lyudmila Artemovna, I'm done listening to your advice. You have no right to teach me how to live. My mother-in-law grabbed her bag. Igor, let's go. Mom, please calm down, Igor said softly. I said let's go, she barked. But Igor didn't move. Mom, maybe you shouldn't get involved in our marriage anymore, he said. I almost laughed. For the first time, Igor stood up to his mother. She stood still for a moment, then turned around and left, slamming the door behind her. Igor and I were left alone. You didn't have to talk to her like that, he said quietly. I told the truth, I replied. You didn't have to bring up the past, he said. Why not? She has no problem digging into my life, I shot back. Igor didn't answer. The rest of the evening was tense and quiet. The next morning, as I was getting ready for work, the phone rang. Igor answered. Hello, yes, it's me, he said. Who is this? He frowned. Where did you get my number? I stopped in the hallway to listen. Okay. Yes, we can meet, he said. He wrote something down on a piece of paper. All right, I'll be there at 2 o'clock. Who was that? I asked. A man who wants to meet me, Igor said. Why? He didn't say. He just said his name is Anatoly Belayev. I felt a chill. Belayev, his mother's last name. Is that your father? I asked. Igor shrugged. I don't know. The name fits, but he disappeared a long time ago. Maybe you should find out, I said. Yeah, probably, Igor agreed. Later, during lunch, Igor called me at work. His voice sounded strange, excited and confused at the same time. Lena, you won't believe it. It really was my dad. And what did he want? I asked. He wanted to meet and talk, Igor said. He warned me about Mom. What do you mean? I asked, feeling a chill. He said she could be dangerous and that she has some plan for you and me. What plan? I asked. I'll tell you tonight, Igor said. We're going to meet again. He's going to bring some documents. I couldn't focus at work all day. What plan could my mother-in-law have? And why was Igor's father warning us only now? That evening, Igor came home with a thick folder of papers and a serious look on his face. Sit down, he said. You need to know this too. I sat on the couch as he spread the papers on the table. My dad is not like Mom described him, Igor started. He's been watching my life from afar all these years. He knows I got married and where I worked or used to work. And he didn't leave because he didn't want a family. He left because Mom tried to destroy him. What do you mean? I asked. Igor pulled out some old photos. Look, this is Mom in 1979, he said. The picture showed a young woman in a bright dress with a low neckline, standing with 3 men. I could barely recognize my mother-in-law. And here's another one, Igor said, showing me another photo. This is Mom with one of her lovers. This was taken just a week after Dad found out she was cheating. How did your dad get these photos? I asked. He hired a private detective to get proof for the divorce, Igor said. And then what happened? I asked. Then Mom found out what Dad was doing, Igor continued. So, she tried to get rid of him. He pulled out another document. Here's a certificate from a psychiatric hospital. Mom tried to make everyone believe Dad was crazy. She paid a doctor to diagnose him with a serious mental illness. My mouth dropped open in shock. But this paper is fake. Yes, Igor said. Dad barely managed to prove he wasn't crazy, but it took him months. During that time, Mom sold the summer house, which was in her name, and hid the money. What did your dad do then? I asked. He left, Igor said quietly. He realized there was no point fighting someone like her. But Mom made him promise not to contact me or tell me where he was living. Then why did he decide to contact you now? I asked. Igor took out another document. Because he found out about Mom's new plan, he said. I took the paper. It was a printout of an online chat between Lyudmila Artemovna and a woman named Galina. Galia, do you remember how we dealt with my mother-in-law? Lyudmila wrote. Now it's my daughter-in-law's turn. She thinks she can do whatever she wants just because she earns money. We need to put her in her place. What are you going to do? Galina asked. The same thing I did with my husband, Lyudmila replied. I'll ruin her reputation at work. I have a friend at her company who will tell her bosses that she's unstable. Then Igor will file for divorce and get half of the apartment. I read the chat twice. Where did your father get this? I asked. Galina. She used to be my dad's second wife, Igor explained. Mom ruined that marriage too. She told my dad that Galina was selfish and even planted fake evidence that she was cheating. Dad believed Mom and divorced Galina. A year later, he found out the truth, but it was too late. Now Galina wants revenge on Mom for ruining her life. She found this chat and gave it to my dad. I leaned back on the sofa. Everything was starting to make sense. My mother-in-law wasn't just interfering in our lives. She had a plan to get me fired and then force Igor to divorce me, so he'd get half of the apartment. Igor, did you know about this plan? I asked. He blushed. No, I swear I didn't. Mom just said we needed to keep you from getting too proud, so you'd remember your place. Sometimes she hinted that maybe we got married too fast, that we should have waited. And what did you think? I asked. I thought she was just worried about losing me, he admitted. I got up and started pacing. So your mother wants to destroy me. Dad says we have to be ready for anything, Igor said. Mom can be very sneaky. And what does he suggest we do? I asked. He says we should collect evidence against Mom so we can use it to stop her if she tries to hurt you, Igor replied. I thought about it. On one hand, it made sense to protect myself. On the other hand, I didn't want to become like my mother-in-law. What if we just talk to her openly and tell her we know everything? I asked. Dad says that's a bad idea, Igor said. When Mom feels cornered, she becomes even more dangerous. So, what should we do? I asked. Igor shrugged. Nothing for now. Just be careful. The next day, as soon as I arrived at work, my boss, Andrei Petrovich, called me into his office. He looked serious. Lena, sit down, he said. We need to talk. I sat down, nervous. I received a call about your behavior, he said. A woman who said she was your neighbor claimed that you're aggressive at home, fight with your family, and could even be dangerous to your coworkers. I felt a wave of fear wash over me. It had started. Andrei Petrovich, that's not true, I said quickly. I have problems with my mother-in-law, but I'm not aggressive at all. She sounded very convincing, the director said. She told stories about you breaking dishes and making threats. That's all lies, I said, trying to stay calm. Who called you exactly? I don't remember the name, he replied. It was an older woman who said she was worried about our team. Andrei Petrovich, you've known me for 5 years. Have I ever been aggressive at work? The director was silent for a moment. Of course not. That's why I wanted to talk to you first instead of writing a report. Thank you, I said. But this is just slander. I have family problems, but they don't affect my work. All right, he said. But be careful. If I get more calls like this, I'll have to take action. I nodded and left his office. My hands were shaking. My mother-in-law had started her plan. At lunch, I called Igor and told him what happened with my boss. So Mom is already making her move, he said quietly. What should we do now? I asked. Dad told me to let him know if anything happens at your work, Igor said. He has a counterplan. What plan? I asked. He didn't say, Igor replied. He just wants us to keep him updated. That evening, when I came home, Igor had more news for me. Mom met her friend Tamara today, he said. She works at a recruiting agency. How do you know? I asked. Dad is watching Mom. He has people helping him. What did they talk about? Tamara agreed to help Mom find me a good job with a salary of 120,000 rubles, Igor said. But only if I agree to divorce you. I dropped into a chair. So, your mother wants you to become independent, so you'll leave me. It looks like it, Igor said. And what did you tell them? I didn't know about the meeting, Igor said. Tamara is supposed to call me tomorrow about a job interview. And what will you say? I asked. Igor was silent. I don't know, he admitted. On one hand, I really need a job. On the other hand, I know this is a trap. What kind of trap? If I agree to take the job, Mom will think I'm accepting her conditions and ready to divorce you. Are you ready? I asked. There was a long pause. I don't know, Igor finally said. There have been so many problems between us lately. It's your mother who's causing all the problems, I said firmly. If she wasn't interfering, we'd be fine. She's still my mother, Igor said. I can't just cut her out of my life. You can, I said, just like your father did. But then I'd be completely alone, Igor said sadly. You have me, I reminded him. I'm your wife. As long as you don't leave me. Why wouldn't you leave me? Igor asked quietly. You're successful, independent, and you earn 3 times more than I do. Maybe you'd be better off without someone like me. And there it was. That was the real problem. Igor felt like he wasn't good enough, and his mother kept feeding those feelings. Igor, I didn't marry you for your money, I said. I married you because you were kind, honest, and reliable. So, what changed? Igor asked. You think I'm not kind or honest anymore? You lied to me for 3 months about losing your job, I said. And you let your mother humiliate me. That's not kind or honest. I just wanted to do what was best, he said. Stop, I said sharply. Don't ever say that again. I wanted what was best is just an excuse for people who don't have the courage to do the right thing. Igor looked hurt. So, I'm a coward. Yes, I said honestly. But you can stop being one. Tomorrow, When Tamara calls, tell her you want the job, but make it clear you're not going to divorce me. And what if they take back the offer? Igor asked. Then you'll find another job on your own, I said firmly. But at least your mother will know her plan failed. Igor took a moment to think. Okay, I'll try, he finally said. The next day, Tamara really did call. Igor turned on the speakerphone, so I could hear everything. Igor, I have great news for you. Tamara's voice sounded excited. There's an opening for a general manager at a big company. The salary is $120,000 plus bonuses. That sounds interesting, Igor said. What are the requirements? You need experience in banking, a college degree, and you have to be responsible. You have all that, Tamara said. But there's one condition. What is it? Igor asked. The company prefers employees who aren't married, Tamara said sweetly. Unmarried workers can spend more time on the job. So, I need to get a divorce? Igor asked. Well, not officially, Tamara said. You just need to live apart from your wife and show that work is the most important thing for you. Igor looked at me, then said firmly into the phone, Thank you for the offer, but I'm not willing to give up my family for a job. There was silence on the line. Igor, think about it, Tamara finally said. This kind of opportunity doesn't come often. I did think about it, Igor said. If a company wants me to leave my family, then it's not the right place for me. Let my mom worry about her own life, and I'll worry about mine. After he hung up, Igor looked happier. For the first time in a long while, he made his own decision without his mother's influence. You know, he told me later that evening, maybe Dad is right. Maybe it's time to tell Mom that things have changed. And how will you do that? I asked. I don't know yet, Igor said. But I'll figure something out. I hugged him tightly. Maybe there was still hope for our marriage, if Igor could learn to stand up for himself and stop letting his mom control him. But my happiness didn't last long. 2 days later, something happened at work that turned my life upside down. That day, Marina Viktorovna, the head of HR, asked to see me. Her face looked serious. Lena, we've received complaints from clients about your behavior, she said coldly. What complaints? I asked in shock. They said you were aggressive during meetings, that you raised your voice and were rude, she explained. I couldn't believe it. In my whole career, I had never received a single complaint from a client. Marina Viktorovna, that's not true. Can I see the specific complaints? I asked. They were phone calls, she said. There's nothing written down. Who called? I demanded. People who said they were from Northern Investments and 2 other companies you met with last week, she replied. I thought back to those meetings. Everything had gone well, and the clients were happy. We even signed preliminary contracts. Let's call those companies directly, I said firmly. I'm sure they didn't complain. We called them. All 3 companies confirmed that they had no problems with me at all. Then who made those calls? I asked. Marina Viktorovna hesitated. Maybe someone pretended to be from those companies. So, fake complaints were made about me? I asked. It looks like it, she said. But be careful. If this happens again, we'll have to take action. I left her office furious. My mother-in-law was getting bolder. First she called herself, and now she got someone to pretend to be clients. I drove home in a bad mood, ready to talk to Igor about everything. But when I opened the apartment door, I realized there would be no conversation. Ludmila Artemovna was sitting in the living room looking proud and pleased with herself. Igor was standing next to her, looking guilty. Here she is, our beauty, my mother-in-law said in a mocking tone. She turned to Igor. And Gorik told me everything, about his dad, about Sleshka. I looked at my husband. Did you tell her everything? Mom forced me, he mumbled. She said if I didn't, she would cut me out of her will. What will? What inheritance? I asked, confused. The dacha is in my name, my mother-in-law explained calmly. And there's a bank account too. If I want, I can leave it all to strangers instead of my son. So, you were scared of losing the dacha? I looked at Igor in disbelief. It's the only thing I have, he said weakly. You have a wife who supports you. I reminded him. But my mother-in-law interrupted. That wife is only temporary. The mother stays forever. I sat down, trying to process what I had just heard. Igor had betrayed me for some property. Okay, I said calmly. So what happens now? Now you stop playing games, my mother-in-law ordered. Stop turning my son against me. Start acting like a proper wife. Dress modestly. Don't waste money on silly clothes, and obey your husband and mother-in-law. I laughed. And if I don't? I asked. Then I will ruin your career completely, she threatened. I know people in many companies. You won't be able to find a job anywhere. You're overestimating yourself, Lyudmila Artemovna, I said. Oh, really? She smirked. I've already started. Tomorrow I'll call the tax office and report that you're hiding income. Then I'll tell the prosecutor that you take bribes from clients. And the day after that. Enough, I interrupted. I understand. My mother-in-law smiled. Good girl. Tomorrow you'll go to the store and buy proper clothes. No more short skirts, tight tops, or high heels. And what if I refuse? You won't refuse, she said confidently. You have more to lose than I do. I stood up and went to the bedroom. I needed time to think. Behind me, I heard my mother-in-law's satisfied voice. See, Gorik? You were afraid to talk to her, but it's easy if you do it right. I couldn't sleep all night. I kept thinking about the situation. Lyudmila Artemovna had declared war on me and wasn't going to back down. Igor had betrayed me for an inheritance. His father was the only one who might help me, but he couldn't do much. In the morning, I made my decision. If my mother-in-law wanted war, she would get it, but we would play by my rules. First, I went downtown to the most expensive boutique. I spent 150,000 rubles on a new suit, a bright red Italian silk jacket and skirt, a French designer blouse, and handmade shoes. Red was my favorite color, and it always annoyed my mother-in-law the most. Then I stopped by a jewelry store and bought gold earrings with rubies for another 50,000 rubles. I came home at lunchtime. Igor was in the kitchen, drinking coffee with a worried look. When he saw my shopping bags, he jumped up. What is all this? He asked. New clothes, I replied calmly. How much did you spend? 200,000, I said. Igor went pale. Are you crazy? Mom told you not to. If your mom wants to give advice, she can pay for it herself, I said. This is our family money, he shouted. Family? I laughed. Do you even contribute a penny to it? I'm looking for a job, he protested. You've been looking for 3 months. It's time to find one. I shot back. Igor paced around the kitchen nervously. Mom will be furious. Your mom is not my boss, I said. She can ruin your career, he warned. She'll try, I agreed. But I have my own tricks. What tricks? He asked. I didn't answer. To be honest, I didn't actually have any secret plan, but I wasn't going to show that. An hour later, Lyudmila Artemovna arrived. As soon as she saw my new clothes lying on the sofa, she lost her temper. What is all this? She shouted. Clothes, I answered calmly. I told you not to buy bright clothes, she snapped. But I never agreed to that, I replied. She turned to Igor. Igorik, did you let her spend all this money? I tried to stop her, Igor muttered. Not hard enough, she yelled. She grabbed my red jacket and looked at it closely. 200,000 rubles for this garbage? Are you insane? These are quality designer clothes, I said. Designer clothes? This is ridiculous, she shouted. Lyudmila Artemovna, I spend my own money on what I want. Not yours, not the family's, mine. I earned it myself. She shook her fists. Igorik, are you a man or not? Make her stop wasting money. Igor shifted uncomfortably. Lena, maybe you should try to spend less? Spend less. I stood up and looked straight at him. I pay for our apartment, the car, food, and even help your mom. What exactly should I save on? Well, maybe on clothes. Do you really need all this? He said weakly. His mother jumped in. You should wear normal clothes, not these cheap, flashy things. I felt my patience running out. Lyudmila Artemovna, I'll say it one last time. What I wear is none of your business. It is my business. You're embarrassing the whole family, she screamed. What family? I asked calmly. A family where the husband doesn't work and the mother-in-law tries to control everything? How dare you talk to me like that, she shouted. I dare because I will wear what I want, I said firmly. She turned to Igor. Igor, if you don't control your wife right now, I will cut you off from the inheritance. Igor looked between us, confused. Then he straightened up and said firmly, Mom, don't interfere in our marriage. Lyudmila Artemovna was shocked. Igor, are you crazy? Lena is wrong. It's her fault. No, Mom, Igor said calmly. I finally understand who is in charge of my family, me. I'm the man here. She snapped, then act like a man and earn money like one. She turned back to me, screaming, Shut up. And Igor, forbid her from wearing these horrible clothes right now. Mom, please calm down, Igor tried to say. I won't calm down, she shouted. She picked up my red blouse and shook it in front of Igor's face. Look at what your wife is wearing. A neckline down to her belly button. See-through sleeves. What decent woman dresses like this? Mom, it's a normal blouse, Igor said softly. Normal, she shouted, throwing it on the floor. This looks like it belongs in a brothel. I bent down, picked up the blouse, and calmly put it over the back of a chair. Lyudmila Artemovna, if you don't like what I wear, you don't have to look at me. Don't look, she yelled. What about Igor's neighbors and coworkers? What will they think? They'll think he has a beautiful wife, I said. Beautiful, she scoffed. You look cheap and vulgar. That's your opinion, I said calmly. It's not just my opinion, she snapped. The whole family agrees with me. I laughed. What family? Just you and your son? Yes. And we have the right to tell you to dress properly. No, you don't, I replied firmly. Lyudmila Artemovna stamped her foot in anger. We do. You're a married woman, and you must obey your husband. I turned to Igor. Do you want me to change my clothes? Igor hesitated. Well, maybe something a bit more modest. What exactly should I change? I asked. It's just this blouse is too revealing, he stammered, blushing. Well, what exactly don't you like? I asked. The neckline? Yes, Igor said quietly. Fine. And what about the skirt? The skirt is okay, he said, but then his mom jumped in. No, the skirt is too tight. It shows everything. I agree, Igor added quickly. Maybe it could be looser? Put it on right now, Igor ordered. I picked up the dress from the floor and threw it back at him. I won't wear it. You stupid dog, he shouted. You will only wear what my mother likes. Then he grabbed my new red blouse and ripped it apart. I looked at the expensive blouse in pieces in his hands and felt all my anger explode. All my patience, the insults, and trying to compromise for a year and a half, it all ended in that moment. I punched Igor as hard as I could right in the jaw. He flew back, hit his head on the radiator, and fell to the floor, knocked out. Lyudmila Artemovna screamed, Help! She's attacking. I stood there shaking, my fists still clenched, looking at my husband lying on the floor. His lip was bleeding, and his eyes were closed. The mother-in-law ran to him. Igor, baby, wake up. He didn't move. Call an ambulance, she screamed. I took out my phone and dialed 103. Ambulance. A man is unconscious after hitting his head. While we waited for the doctors, my mother-in-law cried over Igor, and I quietly picked up the torn pieces of my blouse. It was a beautiful blouse. What a waste. 150,000 rubles gone. Igor woke up in the ambulance. He opened his eyes and tried to speak, but only blood came out of his mouth. Concussion, the doctor said. His jaw might be broken. He needs an X-ray. At the hospital, they took Igor for tests. My mother-in-law and I sat in the hallway waiting. You've ruined him, hissed Lyudmila Artemovna. I will sue you. Go ahead, I said calmly. He's your husband. He was my husband. Now I don't know what he is. How could you hit him? She cried. Easily, I said. He tore my things, disrespected me, and threatened me. An hour later, the doctor came out. He has a moderate concussion, he said, and his jaw is broken in 2 places. He needs surgery. When my mother-in-law asked, tomorrow morning. Tonight he'll stay under observation. But there will be consequences. His jaw will heal, but his face might look uneven, and he could have trouble speaking clearly. Ludmila Artemovna burst into tears. You ruined my son's face. The doctor looked at me. Did you do this? Yes. Why? Self-defense, I said. Was he beating you? No, but he was humiliating me, tearing my clothes and threatening me. The doctor nodded. I see. It happens. My mother-in-law shouted. What violence? He's a man, the head of the family. A man who rips his wife's clothes is not a head of the family, the doctor said calmly. That's domestic abuse. Doctor, can I see my husband? I asked. Yes, but he's sedated and sleeping. I went into the intensive care room. Igor was lying there, hooked up to N4. His face was swollen, and his jaw was bandaged. He looked miserable. Well, are you happy now? My mother-in-law muttered beside me. Not really, I said. He loved you. Strange way of showing love. Tearing my clothes. He was trying to teach you. I don't need teaching, I replied. Do you? You see where your stubbornness got us, she said. I looked at Igor. It showed the truth. What truth? That our marriage was a mistake. Don't be stupid. Ludmila Artemovna, your son doesn't respect me. He thinks I'm something he can control. But I am not his property. You are his wife. I was his wife. Now I will be his ex. What? She gasped. I'm filing for divorce, I said firmly. She turned pale. You wouldn't dare. Oh, I will. And I'll also sue him for destroying my blouse. It cost 70,000 rubles. Got it, I said. And the shoes. The heels are too high, he mumbled. So, you think I should change my whole outfit? I asked. Not completely, Igor said nervously. Just dress a bit more modestly. In what exactly? I asked. Igor looked confused. Well, maybe what Mom brought. I turned to Ludmila Artemovna. What did you bring? She smiled like she'd won and pulled a gray, ankle-length dress out of her bag. It was sleeveless, shapeless, and made of cheap fabric. This is what a married woman should wear, she said. I took the dress, looked at it closely, and handed it back. No. What do you mean, no? She yelled. I won't wear this, I said calmly. Igor, tell her, she shouted. Igor swallowed hard. Lena, maybe you can at least try it on? No, I repeated. Why not? Because it's ugly, I said. It's modest. Ludmila Artemovna screamed. It's tasteless, I shot back. Ludmila grabbed Igor's hand. Do you hear her? She refuses to obey you. Igor pulled his hand away. Mom, that's enough. Lena is an adult. She decides what to wear. Adult, his mom scoffed. Adults don't act like this. How do they act then? I asked. They obey their husbands and their mother-in-law. What century do you think we're living in? I asked. A normal one, not your crazy one, she shouted. I felt my anger rising. Ludmila Artemovna, let's end this conversation. No. Will you wear what I brought? No, I repeated firmly. She turned to Igor. Make her. Igor spread his hands helplessly. Mom, I can't force her. You can. You're a man. She's your wife. Make her listen. Igor looked at me, then at his mom, then back at me. His face was red and confused. Lena, he finally said, maybe you should do it for the sake of peace in the family? Peace? I asked, walking up to him. If you want peace, tell your mom to stop interfering in our lives. I'm not interfering, his mom shouted. I care about our family's reputation. What reputation? I snapped. Everyone still remembers your scandals. Shut up, she screamed. No, I won't shut up. I'm sick of lectures from someone who wasn't perfect when she was young either. Shut up, she yelled and swung her hand at me. I stepped back. Ludmila Artemovna, I wouldn't recommend trying that. She turned to Igor. Do you hear how she talks to me? Igor stood there, tense, his fists clenched, looking between me and his mom. Mom, calm down, he said. I won't calm down. This woman is mocking your mother. Mom, stop, Igor said. Can't you see she doesn't respect you? She doesn't respect you either. She dresses like a tramp. That's enough. Igor suddenly shouted. We both fell silent. He turned to me. Lena, go change your clothes. Into what? I asked. Into what Mom brought, he said firmly. No, I replied calmly. Go change your clothes, he repeated louder. No, I said again. Igor took the gray dress from the table and threw it in my face. For a piece of cloth? 70,000 rubles. It wasn't just a rag. It was a designer blouse from a famous brand. But he's your husband. Can a husband hurt his wife like this? Isn't that also called domestic violence? Ludmila Artemovna grabbed my hand. Wait, let's talk calmly. There's nothing to talk about, I said. Igor will get better, but he needs to learn he was wrong. He knows he was wrong, she pleaded. It's too late. I loved him, but only until today. One argument isn't a reason for divorce, she cried. This wasn't just one argument. This was the last straw. I left the hospital room, leaving my mother-in-law crying over her son. When I got home, I packed Igor's things into a suitcase and put them outside the apartment door. I decided to change the locks in the morning. That evening, Igor's father, Anatoly, called. He had heard what happened. Ludmila asked me to help Igor, he said. I told her it's his own fault. A real man doesn't destroy his wife's clothes. Thank you for understanding, I said. What will you do now? I will file for divorce and ask for money for the damage he caused. That's the right thing to do. Igor must be responsible for his actions. As for Ludmila, she raised him to act this way. I'm not surprised at all. You're not?
No.
I've been expecting this. Ludmila ruined my life first, then Galina's, and now yours. She always causes problems. First it's love, then control, then everything falls apart. It was only a matter of time. And what do you think will happen next? You'll get divorced. Igor will go back to his mother. They'll complain about how ungrateful you are. Then Ludmila will find him a new wife, and the same thing will happen all over again. Won't he learn anything? Men like him, who rely on their mothers, rarely learn. It's easier for them to blame their wives. The next day, I filed for divorce and sued Igor for 70,000 rubles for the blouse, plus money for emotional damages. A week later, Igor got out of the hospital. His jaw healed crookedly, and he could only whisper. He came home to get his things. Are you really serious about the divorce? He whispered at the door. Yes, I'm serious. This isn't just one argument, Igor. You tore my clothes, and that was the last thing I could stand. I was wrong, he said quietly. I know I was wrong. We can fix it. No, we can't. Why not? Because you won't change. You always do what your mother says. I won't listen to her anymore. You've said that before. But where have you been staying these days? At my mom's, he said, looking embarrassed.
Exactly.
You ran straight to your mommy. And what did she tell you?
He blushed.
She said you're ungrateful. What else? She said I should file a counterclaim against you for hitting me, and that you'll go to jail. I paused. Do you want to do what your mom says? I don't know, he said weakly. You don't know? Or is your mom deciding for you again? She says I have to make you pay. I see. Go back to your mother, Igor. And don't come here again. I closed the door. He stood outside for a while, whispering something to himself, then left. A month later, our court case began. That's when I found out something shocking. The apartment I thought we bought with a mortgage in my name was actually registered as joint property. Igor had forged my signature on the documents. How could that happen? I asked my lawyer in shock. It's simple, the lawyer said. The documents show you both paid for the apartment and the notary certified your signature. But I never went to a notary. I protested. Then your signature was forged, the lawyer said calmly. We need to do a handwriting examination to prove it. The handwriting test showed that the signature was fake. But that was just the start of the problems. During the investigation, I found out that Igor had taken out loans I didn't know about. He borrowed 500,000 rubles using my name without telling me. At our meeting, I asked him, where did these loans come from? I needed money to start my own business, he whispered. What business? You didn't even work. Mom said I could start a business using my money. You mean my money? I corrected him. Well, technically it was yours, but we were a family, he said. And where is the money now? The business failed, he muttered. Igor, where did the 1.5 million rubles go? He stayed quiet. Answer me. Mom told me to invest it in a company's shares, but the company went bankrupt. I felt like I was going to faint. Lyudmila Artemovna hadn't just interfered in our marriage, she had destroyed me on purpose. Then the judge gave the final decision. The marriage is officially ended. The apartment, bought with the plaintiffs, my money, stays with her. The fake loans in the plaintiff's name are cancelled. Igor was left with just his personal things and all the debts. After the trial, Igor came up to me in the hallway. Lena, I'm sorry. For what, exactly? For everything, for Mom, for the loans, for tearing up your clothes. Igor, do you realize your mother stole from us? She wanted what was best. Stop. I raised my hand. Don't say that again. Your mother stole 1.5 million rubles from me. I didn't steal it, he said weakly. I just made a bad investment in shares of a company that didn't exist. She didn't know, he added. I knew it was a scam right from the start. Igor looked confused. Even now, when everything was clear, he still couldn't believe his mother had tricked him. What are you going to do now? I asked. I don't know. It's hard to find a job after a forgery trial. Mom says her friends will help. You mean the same friends who helped her steal from me? I asked. Igor stayed silent. That was the last time we spoke. We split up for good. I changed my last name back to my maiden name, got a new job, and moved to a new area. I wanted to start over. But the story wasn't over yet. A year later, a police investigator I knew called me. Lena, do you remember your ex-mother-in-law, Lyudmila Belyeva? Unfortunately, yes. What happened? She's been arrested for large-scale fraud. What did she do? She scammed 7 families out of a total of 12 million rubles. Same trick, fake investments and forged documents. What will happen to her? She's already been sentenced to 5 years in a maximum security prison. And Igor? What about him? He didn't know anything, like always. Now he's working as a stock clerk in a supermarket. I hung up the phone and sat quietly for a long time. So, Lyudmila Artemovna had been a professional con artist all along, and Igor had just been her puppet. But the most interesting part was still to come. 6 months later, I ran into Galina, Igor's father's second wife, on the street. She saw me first. Lena, how are you? She asked. I'm fine, I said. And you? I'm great, she replied. Anatoly and I got back together. We remarried. Congratulations, I said. But what about Lyudmila? She's still in prison, right? Where else could she go? Galina said. Finally, Anatoly and I can live in peace. And Igor? I asked. Galina smirked. Igor got married again. To who? To a businessman's daughter. A rich girl. Her father spoils her. And how is their marriage? Terrible, Galina said with a laugh. The girl turned out to be even more stubborn than you. In the first week after the wedding, she kicked Igor out because he tried to boss her around. Seriously? Absolutely. Now he rents a small apartment far from the city center and works as a delivery man. And his young wife filed for divorce already and wants alimony. Why alimony? I asked. She says she suffered emotional distress just by being with him. I couldn't help but laugh. And Igor? Is he blaming someone else again? He says all women are ungrateful and selfish, Galina said, shaking her head. He hasn't learned a thing. Did you think he would change? No, Galina sighed. People like him never change. They stay mama's boys forever, even when their mother isn't around anymore. We said goodbye, and I walked home with a light heart. Justice had finally been served, even if it took time. A year later, I married a man who never tried to control me, who treated me as an equal, respected my opinions, and had long lived an independent life. He didn't even know what it meant to be a mama's boy. Our wedding was full of guests, laughter, and happiness. I wore a white dress with open shoulders and a deep neckline, and no one said anything bad about it. Meanwhile, somewhere in a women's prison, Ludmila Artemovna was probably telling the other inmates how ungrateful I was and complaining that modern women don't know how to be quiet and obedient anymore. But that wasn't my story anymore. My story ended the day I understood that no one has the right to tell me how to live. Not my husband, not my mother-in-law, not even society. Every person has personal boundaries that no one should cross. And if someone crosses those boundaries, you have to defend yourself by any means necessary. Because patience is not a strength. It's a weakness that stronger people take advantage of. And I decided I would never be weak again.